was really discouraged, but like I said, I pitched it to maybe 3 places. I tried to actually pitch it to a couple places in Atlanta first because it's an Atlanta story.
Yeah.
And no one got back to me. I didn't hear anything. I was like, dang, like, you just start thinking, well, maybe, but I was like, no, this story is golden. Like, just the story, aesthetically, visually, the guy, how Great Dane he is. I was just like, this is just perfect. But I was like, I'm gonna try one more time.
Yeah.
And I presented it to her in the Zoom meeting, and she was like, I like this a lot. And so she passed it along to the editor, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna run with it.
Yeah.
So, but it took like maybe 2 months for it to publish.
Wow.
Just through, because like, how the news cycle is. It's like, if something comes out, it might push it back or whatever.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of, I guess, determination and faith, on my part, and just how everything happened. Like, it was just so spiritual. It was like a real spiritual thing. So that's probably one of the top story that I'm most proud of, and it's in my community. Like.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Andre with the Speak Your Life podcast, back at it again, and we are here with another episode. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, especially if you're on YouTube. We are looking to grow our YouTube channel. We have a very ambitious goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. Please help us get there. We are just climbing. We're about like 50 right now, but we're gonna get to 1,000. I believe we can get to 1,000. And anyways, today's special guest is a very, very artsy photographer who's done amazing work for Washington Geographic, Washington Post, and so many more organizations out there. Please welcome Rita Harper.
Thank you. Hello. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you're able to make it, and so how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today?
I'm about I'd say a 9.
A 9?
A
okay,
9, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
She feeling real good, y'all.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
They're doing some construction, on my apartment building, so it was really, really loud. So they stopped today, so I'm really happy about that.
Okay.
I'm in a good mood.
That's right. And looking good. The hair.
Thank you.
The natural fro. I think that's how when we first met, y'all.
We were at the
High Museum, and I was there with my parents. They got stuck in the elevator, and then I was talking to you. We were like commenting about some picture of this
like Bobby
guy.
Shmurda.
Yeah, the guy who looked like Bobby Shmurda on
there
before he was released, and it happened to be in the picture was in New York too. I was like, that's crazy.
And we were, for a second, you had me. I was like, that might be Bobby Shmurda.
That might be his daddy.
I was like, no, it's not. Let me stop. You were so convincing. You were like, no, look at it from this side. I was like, wait.
I was like, dude, I'm telling you,
I
like, seriously, they say everybody has a twin out there, and
a doppelganger or whatever they call
doppelganger,
it.
Yeah. So like, I believe it. Some people said mine was Bow Wow when I had shorter hair, but you know.
Oh, I can see it.
See.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. I look better, but hey.
Definitely.
Appreciate it. But so, but yeah, are you ready to speak your life?
Yeah, sure.
Let's get it. So Rita, so basically in this podcast, a lot of times not a lot of times, but every time we talk about, we start the conversation off with two important things. The Mark Twain talks about the most important things in life are knowing the day you were born and knowing why. So you don't have to give us the exact year if you don't want to. You can just give us the era, and then walk us through that journey in between to getting to know why you were born and put on this earth.
So I was born June 6th. I'm a 90s baby.
Hey,
the best
90s.
era ever.
That's right.
And so I guess that's a long-winded question when you think about when I learned why I was meant to be here. But I guess I was always a really quiet kid, really observant. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like, especially when we talk about like what I do now with my work and things like that, I always feel like I observed more than I talked, Mm-hmm. So I was able to take in a lot of human interaction, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I went through a long point of just kind of like figuring out like what I liked. I was a creative kid. I always liked the arts. You know what I mean? I used to write poetry and things like that. And then when I got to high school, I went to performing arts high school.
Wow.
And then they had a magnet program, theater, dance, but I took a television production.
Nice.
So at that point, I used to tell myself like, oh, because I love rap. I love, I love rap music. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a music video director. So that's what I told myself. Like, okay, I want to be a music video director.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I used to, try to direct videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Went to school, went to college. Definitely wasn't focused. Partied my life away, and I dropped out. I dropped out my second year of college.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And then,
I mean, hey, it happens. Some of the most successful people drop out.
Yeah, I dropped out, and so it's crazy because I went there. I majored in mass communications, but I didn't really have a passion. Like I said, I wanted to direct music videos, but it was like it wasn't something that I was fully invested into, or I felt like a purpose in. You know, so I was just lost. So I just partied all the time. Came home. And that's when I just pretty much got into the workforce. I used to work in like a bunch of different restaurants.
Oh, okay.
Like a lot, like hosting and stuff like that.
Nice. For like, I don't know, Applebee's or...
Oh, okay. It was called Johnny Carino's. It was an Italian
I remember Johnny Carino's.
It was whack. It was
everybody used to complain about it. Yeah.
The food wasn't that good.
People used to be like, nah, don't go to Johnny Carino's. The food is garbage.
It was horrible, honestly.
Yeah, like people would be like... Back in those days, at least in the like early 2000s, before like 2010s, like Olive Garden was huge. Everybody was getting breadsticks. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
But then like for me, it came to be Carrabba's. Once I was exposed to Carrabba's, I never turned back. Never went back to Olive Garden. I was like, now that's trash. Compared to, at least in my opinion.
It's like at the bottom.
There's like a hierarchy.
It was horrible. But it was fun though. It was fun. Like I loved the staff. We got along really well. So I worked there. I worked at Tuesdays. Oh my God, I worked at Fridays.
Wow.
I worked at. I'm sure I'm missing somewhere because I worked at so many places. I did a stint at newborn photography, and that was pretty interesting at the hospital. So
really?
I used to go in, like it was sales, so I would take pictures of people and their newborns and then sell them pictures.
Wow.
I worked at Stone Mountain Park, taking pictures of people on the way in. Like I worked at a lot of different places. So
that's awesome.
It was crazy. So I think then I was like, well, I still always had photography in the back of my mind, though. You know, so then that's when I was like, okay, well, let me just get some equipment. So that's when I got my first camera.
Yeah.
Right.
What was your first camera?
Canon T3i.
Canon T3i.
That's a really good. That's still a really.
She brought her prop, y'all. Which kind of camera is this one right here?
Well, now this is my baby. This is the Pentax 6x7.
Wow.
That's a 120 millimeter film camera, 6x7 format.
If you don't mind, could I pick it up?
Yeah.
Dang, this got some weight to it.
It's heavy. It's not a game.
Wow, this is serious.
It's my favorite. I actually just got that camera though, maybe about. I only had it for like. I don't want to hold it too long. I feel it's
so delicate, like a baby.
Yeah, like I've only had it for like 2 months, but this has actually always been my dream camera.
Really?
Well, once I started to, that's why I was saying like my journey is just long.
Yeah.
Once I started to get into film photography,
wow.
This was my dream camera.
Why is that?
So I finally had it. 120. It's just like a higher resolution, and you have so much detail. 6x7 negative is huge. So you have 35 millimeter, and you have 120. Most people start off with 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
Still, pretty good quality, but not as much resolution. But you only get 10 shots. But just the character and the bokeh, and just the sharpness of it, and just
wow,
the resolution and the depth that you get with it is absolutely amazing.
How good is it with like long range photography, or is it more like kind of like short distance?
It's short distance. It's pretty much short distance. Like this is let's see, this is the 105 lens, 2.4. So the aperture, you have a really wide aperture. So that's what's so special about this lens in particular, is especially on medium format, you usually don't get that wide of aperture, 2.4.
And for the audience members who are not versed in like the terminology or the verbiage of photography, what would you say aperture is in your own definition? Let's see, how
I describe aperture.
Because everybody's heard that word. They're setting up you got your Canon, you got your Nikon, you adjusting your center. I typically leave it in program mode because I'm so lazy.
Well, I always shoot in manual.
Yeah,
so I would describe. How would I describe aperture? How wide your lens is opening up to let a certain amount of light in. Right. So so you have 2.4, and then you can go up to 11. So I think mine goes up to 11. So the lower the aperture or the f-stop, the more light that you can let in.
Yeah.
Right? So for portraiture, that's really great because then you can get like these really isolated shots.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? With the really wide aperture and that really creamy bokeh that really will isolate your subject and blur out the background.
Mm-hmm.
The higher the f-stop, then the less light is coming in, and then the sharper it'll get, and then the less background blur that you get. So everything will be more in focus. So if you wanted a shot like more in focus, then you would shoot at like 5.6 or 8 or like 11. But for intimate portraiture, where you want that isolated subject and you want the background bokeh, you shoot like 2.4 or 4.
Wow.
And then you interchange between aperture and shutter speed.
Yeah.
As well, because then the shutter is how long your shutter's gonna stay open.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So if you go down to like 2 seconds, that's for like long exposure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
and then the higher it is, the darker it becomes, right? Yeah. So I just have to get reconnected to all this stuff because
those three things though interchangeably are what's gonna affect your exposure.
That's right.
In general.
And the ISO too.
Yeah, but with film, you're not worried about the ISO because that comes on the film pack that you're gonna buy. So if you get Portrait 400, then your ISO is gonna be 400 for the whole roll. So then you're just balancing between aperture and shutter speed because you already know that your ISO is gonna be 400. Nice.
Yeah. So I actually, I may have told you this, but my dad, he's actually a professional photographer, and I grew up as just modeling and stuff like that as a kid, and he's done it for like, man, I would say close to 30, probably 35 years now.
Wow.
And I remember the times that he had like dark rooms, and I would be in there playing around in his dark room, but now things have changed because like obviously you have more digital photography, and now you have like places like Kodak has gone out of business. So like things have changed and evolved. Like what are the biggest things that you observed as far as like the evolution of photography, and like what are some big changes that you noticed?
Honestly, I think film though is making a huge comeback right now.
Oh yeah?
Because people are kind of discovering like the quality, you really can't replicate it.
Really?
Like, the skin tones that you get, the colors, it's just like you can't really mimic that in digital. So I see it actually making a big comeback.
Okay.
Because I started shooting film maybe like 4 years ago. Like I found documentary photography and film photography at the same time. Because I'd be online and I would see these photos. I'm like, what is this tech? Like, it just has such a nostalgic vintage look.
It
I
does.
was like, how are people getting this? And so I had a friend who was shooting film, and I said, hey, can you just show me like the ropes? And then as soon as he showed me, I fell in love. Like once I got my first roll back, and I just saw like just again like I shoot with black and white too, but just those colors and the range, the dynamic range that you get and the tones, it's just you can't really replicate it with digital. So
But what would you say, like, how does it, like, in your observation, how has it evolved from, like, when it was, like, growing into the digital, I don't know, what are some things that you noticed during that change, or that, I don't know.
Digital to film.
From I guess from film to digital, like, what would you say would be some, like, the biggest things?
Well, I am, like, a big film photography nerd, so I guess from the beginning, like, I noticed just, like, the emotion in photography kind of like, change. Like everything is so fast paced with digital. You can shoot like,
that's true.
Just millions of photos and it doesn't matter. But when you're shooting film, you have to stop and think. So I guess I noticed just the evolution, it being, like, okay, I know this is kind of like off topic, but like you see like DMX just passed away, right?
Yeah.
But if you see the photos that are circulating of him, they are just absolutely amazing. But most of those are shot on film photography by a photographer named Jonathan Mannion.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
There's a certain emotion in the photos that is just, you can't replicate with digital. So I guess when I see like the transition, when I look, because I would shoot digital onto, film photography.
That sneeze didn't want to come out.
Oh,
I'm sorry. No. It was there, and I was like, hold up, it went away. So we're good.
Yeah.
No, we're good. But yeah, you were talking about like DMX and like
yeah, like those photos that were circulating, like a lot of people were like, wow, these photos are so powerful and intense. And I do think it's the photographer, but I also attribute it to film, just that raw aesthetic that film has. So I guess when you talk about the transition, like I wasn't here for like when film stopped and the digital started, but I've been a digital photographer and a film photographer.
Okay.
So I just think the emotion is different.
Yeah.
In film photography.
Wow. And in your personal preference, like, are you more of a like portraits of people, or you like take pictures of nature, cities, and objects? Like, what's your favorite thing to?
So like I used to shoot like many of things like baby showers, weddings, but then when I found documentary photography, I was like, this is all I want to do. Yeah. So I would say photojournalism and documentary photography. I love portraiture because I think it tells a story within itself. So intimate portraiture, environmental portraiture, people in their environments, whether that's business owners, mothers and daughters, sons, just people in my community. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, documentary and photojournalism.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Cause it when you take a picture, especially with like the detail that you're getting from a camera like this, you can really experience like the emotion that you were talking about, like just drawing that, like, and drawing the humaneness of like the moment. And I think that's the art in itself, because like there are people who are good at photography. Like, I can take some decent pictures of nature, but I think for people like you, and you're just trying to like capture the human experience in like 100%. That one moment, like, I think that's another skill. Like, I feel like there's levels to it, and that's a whole other thing in itself, because there's some people who, like myself, I can do nature, I can take pictures of buildings, I can do that all day long, but I don't feel like I've gotten to the point where like I can really draw the right emotion to provoke a thought or a feeling for the person who's watching it or looking at the photo. And so what are some, I don't know, what made you like, were there some things about documentary that just like took you in and drew you in? Like, what were some things that really made you, or maybe there may be some movies or documentaries that you felt inspired from that were like, hey, I really want to do this?
Yeah, so I would say like in me finding film photography, I just took a deep dive into the whole genre.
Yeah.
And then once I started going out into my neighborhood and documenting, I was like, well, let me find some other photographers who've done this before. And then I'm a huge fan of the genre of documentary photography in general. So I found like certain greats like Jamil Shabazz, Gordon Parks, of course. I'm a big fan of 90s hip hop photography too. Just it has like that raw aesthetic. Yeah. So when I would see these photographs of like the civil rights era and especially just anybody documenting the Black experience and Black life, I was super sold, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. Yeah. I don't want to just take photographs, but I want to be able to tell stories, whether that's through a portrait or through a series of photographs. I just want to be able to make sure that I knew I had more to communicate, like just the person that I am, the things that I stand for and believe in. I knew I had more to communicate through my photography than just pretty photos. Yeah, if that makes sense. I like beautiful photographs, but I had more to say through that. So and then I
like that.
Oh, National Geographic. They have a National Geographic photographers documentary.
Really?
Where they follow them around on their assignments. And I saw that maybe like a year ago, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, this is all I want to do.
She's like, I'm sold.
I'm sold, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like, man, she's like the Ava DuVernay of photography, y'all, man. She's like making it happen over here. And, it's cool because, like, the people who are just like, I feel like in this day and age, we're just like so focused on, oh, I just want to get the right Instagram pic, and I just want to have the best pic with the right filters and all that stuff to get as many likes as possible. But I feel like what you're doing is more than just, like you said, a pretty picture. It's like this picture, me capturing this moment is actually serving a greater purpose. Like, it's like I want to get people to understand the Black experience, to maybe put themselves in our shoes for maybe a day or even a moment. Right. Is that what you?
And also, I feel like definitely like understanding that we all have a common thread, of going through the human experience together. Yeah. So if you can just look at someone who, maybe has a different walk of life than you, but you can empathize with them. So also with me, like, it's like celebrating the everyday person. Because I'm not really, like, I think sometimes in society we celebrate celebrities and materialistic things and status, but there's everyday people walking around who are just as beautiful, who are just as dope. So
they have some amazing stories.
Amazing stories. So that's another reason why I like to just stop everyday people and get their portraiture, get a portrait of them to celebrate that beauty that I think that they have, just as as we would celebrate a celebrity or,
of course,
an Instagram model or something like that.
So, yeah.
And that's another reason why I still like to get like just portraits of, just everyday people, just the everyday like working class. You know what I mean? Just to show like, okay, there's beauty in everybody, in the everyday person.
That's right. And that's what, when you said that, it made me think about whenever what is it called? Humans of New York first came out on Instagram. I'm like, man, this is so powerful, so cool, just to be able to see like how somebody is just capturing people and just highlighting people, showing them some love. People, you get all kinds of people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and poor, rich, middle class, all kinds of people, and children, middle age, old people, like everybody, seasoned, some people don't like me to say that, but yeah, it's like really cool. And then when I recently went to Amsterdam, it was really cool because I found out a friend of mine was like, while you're there, like, did you know that there was like the Humans of Amsterdam? I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I was like looking through their page and I was like, this is really cool. It's cool to see how like it started with Humans in New York and then it spread to like other places. I
love it. I'm such a fan.
Yeah, because it's cool to realize that, like there's a lot of cool people with a lot of cool stories that maybe they don't get to be plastered on TV, or maybe they don't get to be,
But you still matter. That doesn't matter any less.
Exactly, right. Exactly. And it's to show that, hey, like, you still have value. You still, just you being a human.
Where you are right now. Like,
exactly.
Wherever you are in your transitional stage, you matter. You have purpose.
Yeah.
You should be celebrated no matter what.
Yeah. And I definitely agree. Like, people's stories do matter. And I think, also too, I think in our society, especially Western society, we're just like, unless you are like the top billionaire or you're like the top celebrity, like your story doesn't really mean as much, or if you are a person that like you had to come from some real rags to get to where you are, like those are the only stories that captivate the heart. But then there are like the people who are like kind of in the middle, like the average people who are like maybe didn't have like a really crazy, like my parents, were hooked on drugs or anything like that, and I rose from the bottom, start from the bottom, now we're here type of story. But it's just like regular average people.
Yeah.
Those stories are, there's value in that as well. So, so I love what you're doing, and it's really, really, really awesome. And so, what do you feel like are some so what are some things that maybe you have like routines or like something that you do that like helps you keep the creative juices flowing? Because I know sometimes like as an artist, like people tend to, maybe if you're a musician, like maybe you paint or you do some other stuff like that kind of bolster the creativity or the creative process when you're focusing on your main thing.
Right. So. Well, I watch a lot of documentaries.
Yeah.
That may not have to do with, that don't have to do with photography, but different social issues that will inspire me to tackle, like, okay, you know what, this would be a great photo story for me to tackle. But I just always want to go like deeper with the work, so I watch a lot of documentaries on like Vice. I watch a lot of Vice. On story. I just watch a good story about like how Iran is taking over Iraq. Like,
wow.
I'm really into like Middle Eastern politics for some reason. It's just so unique because, like you said, like the Western world, we're just so different.
It is.
So I'm just really interested. So I watched that. I just watched this great documentary on the Aboriginals of Australia and how like they're treating their Aboriginals like, like they're black and like it's horrible. So stuff like that, like documentaries that have to do with like environmental racism, social justice, things like that. Like they really, really inspire me for my work. So,
wow,
that's something I do.
That's really cool.
I'm trying to find more other hobbies though. Like I need another hobby,
Yeah, I mean, going to the High Museum, meeting cool people,
Exactly. But that's what else I do. Like I go to the museum. Like just to try to like gain inspiration. So like seeing the Dawood Bay exhibit was like, oh, this is dope.
That was
doable.
That was and did you see the Julie Meritu? I think that was her name. No. She was I think she was an Ethiopian woman, and she had some really cool paintings. It was like the exhibit was at the high. It lasted until like I think the 31st of January or something like that. But she has some really, really interesting paintings, and she's really into architecture. She was really into a lot of like war stuff, stuff like of the era of I I could be wrong, but it was like the World War era and a lot of German things. And she was also interested in the things you were talking about, like conflicts in Iraq and the Middle East and things like that as well. And the things that people, when you're in America, you're so focused on the American bubble that you're in, and you only focus on like the American news, and there's like so much going on outside of that too. So
that's exactly how I feel. Like when I watch these documentaries, I'm like, wow, like we're in this little bubble, but there's so much going around the world. Like there's oppression happening everywhere. You know what I mean? Like especially for Black people, it's an international thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So to watch, I'm like, okay, like because I want to grow my work. I love documenting in Atlanta, but there's so many more stories out there to tell. There's so much happening.
There is, and it's like. There's stuff in Africa. I'm looking at your Nefertiti tattoo.
Oh yeah.
So there's so much going on, Africa, Middle East, all over the world, and in Australia, like you mentioned, and I think those are some great stories, especially to capture as well, because I think whenever you're not like, exposed to a particular medium or stimuli of some sort that is outside of your norm, you kind of like, I don't know, you don't realize it exists, or just like, it's kind of like, for example, I'll say this, like, people had to watch for 8 minutes and 46 seconds George Floyd getting that knee on his neck. People had to watch that were not in the Black community to really see for themselves, because like maybe they've heard of these stories, like I don't know how real that is, and it's easy to dismiss whenever one, it's not in your family, or two, it isn't directly wreck your home, and then you're more likely to just kind of bypass it and just kind of like just keep quiet, it's whatever. But like what you're doing is you're putting the camera, you're putting the exposure on that, this evil that's going on, and even though that's a heroic thing, because they talk about how journalism it's a dangerous job, and whether it be photojournalism or people just regular journalists, it's a dangerous job, and I see why, because it exposes the truth, it exposes the realities of what's going on in the world. So but yeah, not to get too like dark or anything like that, but just like but what your work is doing is beautiful in the sense that it helps to shine a light on what is going on, that people bypass it. Oh, I heard about stuff that's going on in Iraq. Oh, I heard about this, but to actually see a picture, to actually see a video. 8 minutes, 40 seconds, it's there in your face. Like you cannot ignore it. Like it's happening, and it's like you can't act like it's just like some story that is not connected to you in some sort. But I don't know. Like, is there like maybe a photo or maybe a photo shoot that would you say most proud of, or it could have been maybe an object or even a person that you can think of?
Most proud of.
Or if that's too much, maybe a top 3 moments.
Top 3 moments. Oh, okay, I do. Oh, okay, let's see. I have a couple. Okay, well, for the Washington Post, I pitched a story about a nurse in uniform store in my neighborhood.
Really?
So basically, I was riding down the street. I live in East Point. It's like
not too far.
So initially, I just saw his car. He drives like this old school Cadillac.
Oh yeah.
So Cadillac, I was like, oh, like that is so dope. I'm gonna get a picture of it. But then he comes outside. The man, his name is Great Dane.
Wow.
And so he comes outside and he was like, oh, you want to get a picture of me with the car? I was like, yeah, sure. And I said, well, by the way, like, what is this establishment? Because I'd always seen it. He keeps it aesthetically just looking so nice.
Yeah.
I never knew what it was. And he said, well, this is a nursing uniform store. I took it over from my mom. It's been in the community for 30 years. She retired about 5 years ago, and he took it over after that.
Wow.
He was a truck driver. And he just took it over. And he was like, well, I want to keep it in the family name. So just his story and how he was, like, during the pandemic, he was open 24/7 and providing uniforms to the healthcare community. So nurses, they're directly across from a hospital. Other hospitals in the area, he sells stethoscopes. Just healthcare equipment and stuff. So it was crazy. I shot the photo store, and I was like, this story is so dope. Like, I cannot believe that I was like, no one's come and done a story on you before. And he was like, no, like, this is crazy. So I was really discouraged, but like I said, I pitched it to maybe 3 places. I tried to actually pitch it to a couple places in Atlanta first because it's an Atlanta story. Yeah. And no one got back to me. I didn't hear anything. I was like, dang, like, you know, you just start thinking, well, maybe, but I knew, I was like, no, this story is golden. Like, just the story, aesthetically, visually, the guy, how Great Dane he is. I was just like, this is just perfect. But I was like, I'm gonna try one more time. Yeah. And I presented to her in the Zoom meeting, and she was like, I like this a lot. And so she passed it along to the editor, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna run with it. Yeah. So, but it took like maybe 2 months for it to publish. Wow. You know, just through, because like, you know how the news cycle is. It's like, if something comes out, it might push it back or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it took a lot of, I guess, determination and faith. You know, on my part, and just how everything happened, you know, like it was just so spiritual. It was like a real spiritual thing. So that's probably one of the top story that I'm most proud of, and it's in my community, like, you know, it's in East Point, like it's right in my neighborhood.
That makes it even more special.
Like, it makes it very special.
Right in your own backyard. So like, but yeah, to your point about like just trying one more time, like I think there's so many times in life where you have a passion for something, and you know that it has, like, there's some gold in there, you're just like chipping away at it, but you know there's times where you're like, dang man, like I'm always getting, you know, the rejection letter, or I'm getting told no, sorry, not today, and like then you realize that this does have value, or this can help impact some people. So 100%. And when you know that, you're going to keep moving forward. You're going to keep, even if all it takes is one more yes. Because, like, it's one more try, because you get that yes. You turn those no's to yeses. And imagine if you had, like, stopped trying.
Because I had for a second. I was like, but then when I saw her, I was like, you know what, let me one more time. But I had stopped for, like maybe like a month or a couple weeks. I was like, nah, forget it. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, it just, like you said, it convinced me, like, now I know. Just go that extra mile. Yeah. You know?
Because you really know, like who you can meet, who you can like connect with, who you can I don't know, have a great picture or photo shoot with, or sometimes like the ones that like you just didn't even plan, that like I don't know if you even planned for Dane, like Great Dane, to come out, you know, and take a picture.
Okay, another one I guess I could say too. You know Rhapsody? She's
Rhapsody, yeah.
So I did a shoot with her. So really? That was really crazy how that came about, because
you gotta tell us more about that now.
So maybe like, I don't know, it was like a year and a half ago, I saw she had a meet and greet. So I love her music. So I love documentary photography, but I also love portraiture. And I was like, I love her music. I'm going to get a picture of her. I was like, I had no idea like what would happen or what would come from it. Yeah. But she had a meet and greet at a sneaker store downtown. So it was crazy. So I went down there, but I could not find this place. Really? Like my GPS, I was like, oh my God, I cannot find it. I'm about to go home. Oh, and man. So it was supposed to end at like 7 o'clock. And it was like almost 7. I was like, I'm going home. But again, I was like, you know what? No. Try one more time to find this place. Just try one more time. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I turned around, and then, I found the place. And I go in, but she was still there. Nice. You know? So I go in, and I was like, you know, she was going around introducing herself to everybody. I brought my camera. I had my 35mm. And so I was like, hey, Rach, I'm a photographer. I was like, you know, could I get your portraits really quick? And she was like, sure. Took her photos, and I left. Wow. And then I ended up getting them developed, and I DM'd her on Instagram, and I said, hey, I got these portraits of you. She's like, sure, send them my email. I sent them to her, and she was like, yo. She was like, these are so dope. Yeah. And she was like, yo. She was like, you know, we could schedule something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I come in town or whatever. So it was like months had passed by. And then she had posted them on her Instagram. But I hadn't talked to her in a long time, so she didn't tag me. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I had posted on my, and I was like, yo, I took this photo. So like some of my friends and stuff tagged me, and they're like, hey, she took this. So then she tagged me and she DM'd me, and we were talking about, like, you know, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So then fast forward, this was like maybe some months ago, over the summer or in September. She ended up coming in Atlanta. She was like, hey, so we set up a shoot, and it came out super, super dope. Dang. So that's another time to where I was this close to giving up, because I was like, I do not feel like I just couldn't find a sneaker store. Yeah, and I was gonna go home, but I was like, no, look, try one more time, turn around, and try to find this place. Wow. And then I found it. But if I wouldn't have done that, I would have never. Yeah, had the opportunity. So that was dope too, just because the way I shot it was kind of like an aesthetic of like 90s hip hop photography. So that was cool.
Dang.
So that's like another one I was like really, really super proud of.
Wow, you've had some really cool opportunities.
I had some crazy. It's cool. It's cool, but just like I just try a lot.
Yeah,
I just put put it all out there.
Exactly, like because then you have no regrets. And you're
regrets.
like you don't have to be like because sometimes we try and then we miss it or we maybe fail or. But at the same time, like it takes those moments of failure to be able to be like to have like that success or like I got to have this photo shoot with Rhapsody, I got to do this or I got to do that, and it's like that would have never happened had I not experienced those moments of failure along the way because sometimes when you're like so used to everything happening your way, there's that loss of humility in the sense of like, well, I have to earn it. Like you don't have that hunger, you don't have that same desire, like, well, I gotta get it. I gotta get out here and get it, man. Like, I could go home and but like, no, I gotta get it. I gotta stay on it.
I gotta stay on it.
And so that's what you like when you go through adversity, like, and then you have these moments where like it led up to, and it feels like a spiritual moment where like all the stars align and everything like that.
Crazy.
But it's like opportunity. It's like preparation meets opportunity. That's all it is. It's not even like this was like luck and like this was like you were so prepared. You brought your camera and you were there at the moment and bam, she was right there. And then next thing you know, y'all are like DMing each other and bam, Rhapsody connects you and you have a whole photo shoot. So and it's cool. It's just like I think that's why it's like always cool to like and always do your best too because like I'm sure whenever you put your best into it, like she saw the work that you put in there and it's not like you weren't going into it like I don't think you were like going to it for payment at first like whenever
at first that's what I was saying. At first I was just like I don't know what'll happen. I just want to get a picture of her and see what happens.
Exactly. And it's just like I think sometimes we can be as millennials we can be like focused on the payment this and that like but like it's cool to just like have that true love and that pure love for that passion and then like you'll appreciate it so much so that when you do get paid that check means even more.
It means more because you will get the money will come.
That's right. That's right. And so I think sometimes people and I put myself included because I it can be a struggle out there. You're paying your bills, you got student loans, you got all kinds of things going on, and you got Corona, and so like it's like so much going on, and you're like you got to make ends meet. But these are the stories that we have. Like, man, I was struggling. You have like the Steve Harveys, like he living in his car for 3 years. The Tyler Perry's living in the cars for a couple of years and going through the struggle.
People think you're crazy.
It does.
People think you're crazy.
People have a certain perception of you, and then sometimes you feel like you're crazy, but then deep down in your heart that like there's something there that you're meant to offer the world,
and only you understand that.
That's like a you and God connection. That's very special, and I'm glad that you're and that's how we connected because honestly like like in the High Museum, but also like I got to I connected with you on Instagram. I saw like she's doing some really cool purposeful work, meaningful work. Like it's not just like I'm just taking these pictures just for show, but it's just like it means something. So I really, and that's why I'm glad that we connected and stuff like that. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing and everything that you're continuing to doing. So that you continue to do. So anything I would say, what would you say for all the like new photographers, the rising photographers out there? Any advice that you would give to people who are like they don't know where to start or like I don't know like gigs, all that stuff? Like what would you say? Like
I would say figure out like me learning who I am more like helped me 1,000%. Like once I realized what I stood for, what I valued, who I am authentically,
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, well, I want to be able to show that through my work. So I think that was the best thing, was for me to take a step back and ask, like, well, what do you care about? You know what I mean? And once I did that, I was able to translate that through my work. Like, okay, well, I don't care about celebrities. Like, I'm not materialistic. I don't really care about social status. I care about people. I love human connection and human interaction. Even though I'm like kind of a loner, I still like meeting people and hearing people's stories. And that's what you care about. You know, you care about everyday people. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like who you are in general. I'm just kind of like an everyday girl.
Yeah,
you know? So once I realized that, so I think that's the most important thing. You know what I mean? Because then you can be doing work and then you realize, like, dang, like, I'm still not happy because you're not moving like in purpose, like in your purpose. But we all have something. It might not necessarily be documentary photography, but asking yourself, maybe you have a certain color that you grew up liking. Maybe, you know, you play with dolls, so that's why you want to go into beauty. Maybe you grew up liking makeup. Maybe your mother wore a certain, you know, color or a certain style of dress, and you want to shoot fashion this type of way. You get what I'm saying? So I think, like, once you connect with like who you really are, then I think that is the most important thing. Like, that kind of changed everything for me. And I'm still trying to go to another level. There's another level I want to go to, but I know everything I've done thus far has been like me just really like doing like the inner work of figuring out like who I am and just what do I care about.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that is honestly the most important thing.
That's really cool, because I think sometimes, like, I know at least for myself, like, I had to ask myself, like, what do I like to do? I like to talk. I like to have conversations with people. And you know, it's like, why not record it? Like let's... Like
what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you move in purpose, like, that'll carry you through, like, those bad days.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
the long nights,
the editing. The long nights, the editing. It's like, it'll... Like, I do get tired sometimes because it is work, but the purpose can carry you. You get what I'm saying? But when you just don't, you know, when you don't really care, you're doing something that's, like, not authentic to who you are, it's easy to just be like... Because when I used to shoot, I interned at like a lot of fashion studios and beauty studios.
Oh, really?
Like, that was like, I interned under an amazing woman. Like, her work ethic was crazy, so I learned a lot from that. But when I was there, I was like, this is just not me. And I was just not motivated. You get what I'm saying? And like, I was like a good intern, like a good assistant, but when it came to me taking the reins of doing like my own fashion photography, I was just like very lackluster with it. You get what I'm saying? I just wasn't determined. I remember she was like, I don't think that you like this type of photography. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's not who I am. Like, I don't even wear makeup. Like, I'm not even like, you know, I don't believe in Eurocentric beauty standards. Like, things like that. You know what I mean? It just didn't align with who I was, you get what I'm saying? So I wasn't motivated. But once I found documentary photography and the ability to tell stories visually, I put my all behind it. You know what I mean? Like, I put 1,000% behind it, and I don't feel like it can carry me. You know what I mean? Through those bad days, through rough patches, it carries me because I feel like I'm still moving, you know, like in purpose.
People, I think, I mean, like, I think we've all been there where we've worked at like something that maybe it's prestigious, or maybe it makes a lot of money. I worked in sales and had the potential to make lots of money there. But I think when you realize that you have a purpose and it's greater than money, it's greater than, and it sounds like happily after Disney type of talk, but it's like, it's really not. Like, it's really like, if you really are passionate about something and you really are moving in the right direction, the right people, the right things, the right opportunities will all like connect. They will like be drawn to you, and you don't even have to like go out searching too much to find it. Like, when you're doing it, you're just in it. You're like, you stop thinking about it too much. You stop like, you know, you like, I think sometimes we can have like the analysis praxis, like and just like kind of stop. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's just like, I can't think of the exact word, but it's just like, whenever you are stopped in your tracks, where you are, you overthink, you overanalyze, and you second guess yourself, and that's when you're like, fear starts to creep in, and you're just like, I really want to do this, but will it pay the bills? Will it, you have those doubts that come in. You're like, will it take care of those? Because, like, you hear about the starving artist, and I don't want to be that, and da-da-da-da. and like maybe I should do this engineering degree, even though I hate engineering, but I know it makes a lot of money. Because this made me think about a friend of mine in college, and he was an engineering major. His parents like had all these expectations for him, and he was like, man, my parents would really be proud of me if I was an engineering major. But I was like looking in his eyes like, bro, I can see that you're not passionate about this, bro.
Yeah.
You are passionate about photography. You're so good at it. And I can see that's what you really love. And he was like, but, what about the financial aspect? I said, bro, like,
it'll all take care
you don't
of
got to
itself.
worry about that. Like, it's going to take care of itself. When people see the work that you're doing, he started getting more gigs on the college campus. People started to notice him. And that's when things are starting to blow up. And then he finally realized, like, man, you know what? I'm going to switch majors.
With yourself.
That's right.
And it's hard. That's another thing, too, like, the perception, like people around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like then you learn like people's opinions, like they're fickle.
Yeah,
so like once you
true.
do start moving, people be like, oh, like it's like they never doubted you to begin with. But so it's like you have to really, it's like that can be really hard. Like your ego will get to you, you know. But it's kind of like you just have to remember, like, it's not anyone else's job to understand like your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right, and it's your job. At the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself. You are responsible for your life. And you can't blame your lack of happiness, your missed opportunities on other people. Like, I think that's the worst thing you can do, because when you take full responsibility of your own life and you take full responsibility for all the decisions that you make, you realize that, okay, the successes, I'm thankful for that, and the failures, that's on me as well.
Everything.
You have to embrace all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. And when you're able to do that, like, that's when you're really tapping into who you really are. Like you were talking about, getting to know yourself and just seeing what you really love. And that's really part of the human experience, like really being humane and getting outside the ego, getting outside the I guess the parameters that society likes to create. Like, you have to be this model to be appreciated, you have to do this or have this kind of hairstyle, or look this certain way. Once you start accepting yourself, like, man, people are gonna be looking at you in a different way. They're like, oh, she likes her own style, man, that's a cool style too. Like, and it's like, when people, especially in the Black community, when you've been told all throughout history, like, oh, you're not worth as much because you don't look like this, or your skin tone's not like this. But now, like, people, I feel like there's a shift happening. Like, I feel like Definitely. People, you have like people wearing like dashikis, and people really appreciating their hair and just like growing out, the natural hair, and just like really appreciating. And then like other people or other cultures are starting to be like, because I had a whole discussion with one of my friends in China. She was talking about like people like trying to adopt like African American hairstyles and stuff like that, and the whole cultural appropriation. That's a whole nother talk. But just like how we as a people, once we start to embrace our own selves and our own ways of doing life, then other people are gonna be like, whoa, if they love their self so much, like, man, they're gonna start like seeing like what we're doing is cool. That's Wakanda. That's a cool place. Like, that's a man, even though it's not real.
But no, exactly.
So yeah. So, but anyways, it was I'm not. I can't let it out my mind, that analysis practice thing. I can't.
What?
It's the word I was looking for earlier. Analysis paralysis. That's what it was.
Analysis paralysis.
I don't know why I said practice. I was thinking about like there's a practice test. So analysis paralysis is just like earlier when I was talking about like that's when you're like second guessing yourself. You're like, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do photography? Should I like stay in this job that's like making me a lot of money? Like that's where analysis paralysis, like that is keeping you from succeeding. That's keeping you from making the right failures because you had to fail.
And what is failure though? Like what is that? Honestly, there's if you try and you put yourself out there, it can be perceived as failure, but it's not. Because you learn some type of lesson from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you gain some type of like I don't know, I still gain confidence from my failure because at least I tried.
No, I agree. I agree. And it's like, you know, the greatest people in all kinds of industries, like, you know, Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots in his career. You have everybody that's like failed, and, you know, actors like, you know, messed up and tripped up and over words, but you have to get through that. It's like the people, the ones that are like separated are the ones who are able to like dive into those failures and then just really own it. You own it. You take responsibility for it. You don't blame anybody else, and then you just keep moving forward. Like,
absolutely.
And then, cause like whenever I've like made failures with podcasting or public speaking or anything that I'm passionate about, like I've had people along the way that be like, they see that spark inside of you, but at the same time they're like, hey, maybe you should consider doing this way, and that one little adjustment, that one little technique on like the camera could make all the difference.
It makes all the difference.
Yeah. And it happened because of the failure, not because you succeeded so well.
Mm-hmm.
And it made you like, I don't know, whenever you fail more, like I feel like, and if you keep moving forward, and you really can, I don't know, I think you can do a lot more and make more impact, more than the person who's never failed or just never went through any adversity.
Or ever tried,
Never tried, because they're scared and they have analysis paralysis or something like that. But anyways, as we conclude everything, we in the podcast we talk about like, if life was a house, what is one foundational piece that your house would stand on?
Oh, that's deep. So do you mean like in comparison to like tools or like lumber, or what do you mean?
It could be like so like for instance, like for me, my house, you know, one pillar that it stands on is by its truth. Like staying on truth, like even if it's inconvenient,
mm-hmm.
standing on truth is like what that's one foundational pillar of my life, my house, because sometimes the truth can hurt me,
right.
it can hurt other people, but standing on it is what keeps me grounded, and it keeps my house and my life intact. So what is that thing for you that maybe, because I know there's so many things out there, but like what's one thing that you would say that is a foundational resilience?
Definitely.
Yeah. I can see that, all the things you just talked about.
I think that's like one thing, because it's like, you know what, it's like I might mess up, or I think that, but I'm gonna always keep going. Like I'm extremely resilient. You know what I mean? Like I might get down in the dust, I might have my sad girl day, like but I'm gonna get up the next day and I'm gonna keep going. You know what I mean? So it's shown me a lot of love back, like my resilience. You know what I mean? So I think that's it. Definitely it would have to be.
I definitely agree. From everything you just talked about and so far from what I've seen from you, definitely I definitely agree with that. So and then the very last question, we have question of the day, and that is something, you know, a little not as deep, you know. So if you were to have a drink, just get some advice or wisdom from anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh wow, these are deep. You said who would it be and why?
Something that's like just like, it could be anybody. It could be like, I don't know. It doesn't have to be like super anything, super intellectual type of thing. But it could be like it could be somebody like you just meet up with and have a.
I would say Asada Shakur. She's like my hero. Yeah. So I read her autobiography and it kind of like changed my life. Really? I read it once, like 7 years ago, and then I read it again recently. But she's an ex-Black Panther, and she's in exile actually. You know, in Cuba. Yeah. Like, you know, like they try to get her back and everything like that. But just her, just how accurate she was in her depiction of the Black experience, I think gives a lot of. It can just give a lot of insight into, you know, kind of like how to move, you know, like kind of like in this capitalist society a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, wanting to be successful but then also how to deal with possibly realizing, like, you know, like you might be assimilating, you know, into certain spaces, into white spaces. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that I would definitely want to talk to, just about like, you know, staying like against the grain, like just staying like authentic to your Blackness and understanding like what that means. And
that's, for the people who don't know who that is, that's $2 Mom.
No. That's a Feeney.
Okay.
Assata Shakur, she was an ex-Black Panther. She was a part of the Republic of New Africa, but she was charged falsely, like with killing, like I think a deputy or two deputies, and but she escaped from prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But her story is crazy. You should look into it. Like they had her in a men's prison, like and abusing her and all kinds of things. It was nuts. But yeah, she's in Cuba now, in exile. But I would love to be able to meet her.
Yeah. Maybe we can fly to Cuba sometime.
I know.
So, but anyways, that is, man, I just want to say thank you for so much for being here and sharing your story and just like being a part of this podcast. And for everybody out there, I want you to take this time to follow her on Instagram, and it's _Rita RITA .P.
Yes,
right?
.P.
I got it.
Yes.
So make sure you follow her right now and check out her artwork. Check out what she's got going on. DM her if you are looking to do like a photo shoot. You're in Atlanta. Maybe you're not in Atlanta, but just hit her up and ask any questions and just reach out. And but thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this channel, whether through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And again, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of summer. So help us, get to that goal. Be a part of the Speak Your Life family. And we love you guys. And we'll see you on the next episode. Peace. All right.
Sorry.